Hi everyone, KGF Chapter 2 releases on 14th of April, and I'm sure that all of you are as excited as I am. With me today, we are going to be in conversation with two of the most important people in this process. The creator of this wonderful, wonderful world himself, Prashanth Neel, is here with me, and the rocking Rocky of the film, Yash, is here. So I just thought we'd sit and have a little bit of a chat about the genesis of KGF, you know, like how you got into it, what got you excited about it, your influences to make this movie, to create this world, and so on and so forth. So I think to start with, I mean, wherever I've gone, I must share with you, I did mention to Yash as well earlier, that there is such an excitement about this film. And there is also, I must share one disappointment, because people who are now excited about KGF 2 are disappointed that some of them didn't go to the theatre to watch KGF 1. So they're disappointed about that. But I guess they'll make up for it now. How do you all feel on this at this time when the film is just about to come out to the world?
We're excited. You know, it's 8 years of journey, Prashant?
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years since the inception. So we have been discussing about it. We are living in that world for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And then chapter 1 gave us that confidence, and that has given us that kind of strength where we can, you know, take it to next level. And today we finished all our work. Like yesterday, he was kind of disappointed that he's finished it. So probably he wanted to be in that world itself. So that's why he was not part of our promotional activities also. He was very busy with the post-production.
I think even now he's sitting and actually thinking about is there anything left to be done. He's like, I would much rather be in some post-production. How are you feeling?
Exactly,
Yeah.
that will be his mindset.
I feel like, you know, I'm marrying my daughter off and sending her away. When we started this, I never imagined that we're going to be in a place like this, honestly. I think the only person who had that vision was him. And he kept driving us to do this in the way that we had written it. Usually, it simmers down when you're making only a Kannada movie. You get only this much budget. And then when you think about it and say, okay, I wanted this visual, but can we achieve it? And he was there from the beginning telling us that, you know, don't worry about it. What you have written should come out. And somehow we achieved that. And today, budget is not a constraint at all. Just the whole hype and enthusiasm around the project. And somehow we shielded ourselves from that all these days. But now that, you know, we are out of it and, you know, we are coming finally towards the release. Now it's hitting us.
Yeah, of course.
Have we made the product to what people are expecting? Because everybody will have a different version of what KGF should be. The chapter 2 should be. And for us, you know, we have kept it as the purest form. What we had written initially is what we have executed right now.
True.
So we don't know.
You know, but I must tell you that, I mean, of course, we saw KGF 1. We knew KGF 2 is happening. But even as a kind of an insider on the project, my mind was completely blown when I saw the trailer. Because, like you're saying, I mean, of course, everyone creates a film in their own head when they know a sequel is coming. But I think what you all have done visually, for now, I mean, of course, the story people will see and they will enjoy when they see it. But visually what's happening, I think is far beyond what was, I think anyone could fantasize of or expect. So I must give you a lot of credit for that, because it's blown people away visually. That aspect of excitement is taken care of, you know, now.
Thank you.
So I definitely. And when you started KGF, you were mentioning earlier when we were sitting here and talking, you said in 2006 was when this idea kind of first came to you. So when did you and Yash kind of like start putting your heads together and saying this is what we should do?
It's almost like destiny. I know we're talking like lovers right now. But it is sort of like destiny that in 2012, somebody asked me to watch one of his movies. I hadn't watched his movies. I knew that he was very relevant at that point of time. And that movie is called Googly. So I was still filming my first movie. And when I watched that movie, I said, wow, you know, here is somebody that is going to be big. And I loved his acting. His magnetic personality on screen, something that I was drawn to immediately, and I mentioned it to him also. and he watched Ugram. That was my first movie, and
I was blown.
Yeah.
and he liked it. And the strangest thing happened. My producer asked us if I had a line which was as raw as Ugram was, and I just told him one scene. There's just one scene from the movie, you know, where there's this first time that Andrews comes to Mumbai, to Bombay, and he asks for Rocky, and he gives him this very arduous job of going and killing Garuda.
Yeah.
That was the first scene that I narrated to him. I didn't narrate anything else from KGF. I didn't even have the title.
Right.
The KGF was a very loosely based title. And I mentioned it, and he said, who do you think will play this? I said, Yash. That was the first name that came to my mind. And the next day, he was sitting in the office in front of me. And he heard a little bit of the line. I don't know what excited him from that point. He said, we are doing this. And we haven't looked
So what
back.
was that? He's saying, I don't know what excited him.
No, initially I saw his Ugram ka trailer. Murli was a dear friend, so that Murli was the hero in his film. He came to me with the visuals and for the promotional this thing. I saw it, I'm like, whoa, what is this? It looked like a Hollywood film or a Western this thing. And I'm like, wow, who's this guy? And then I loved it, and I just gave a honest feedback. And then I attended his premiere, I think. I saw the film and I was like, I fell in love with his work, craftsmanship, and the way he had control over all the department. And I was like, wow, this guy is something else. Likewise, I thought this guy will be big. And then Karthik went and approached him. I was not aware of it.
Right.
Then Vijay sir told, okay, there is one director. I said, I love to listen to this thing. He's a fantastic director. And we all sat together. And then he narrated a script. I don't know whether I can tell this or not.
Of course you can.
If you listen to his narration, if he had not done Ugram, I'm sure many of the people would have rejected his film. Now I can talk about that thing because the whole world knows what he's capable of. But at that time, his narration was pathetic, I should say. But I could see that fire and intention, and he was very clear. It's like he was not able to communicate. I think to communicate, he needs one camera and few actors and big setup and all of that. So I just heard this thing, and that was a story. And in that story, this whole KGF part was the smallest, I think.
It was a very small part.
Right.
Very small, and it is such huge thing. Trust me when I say this. When people are talking about KGF and they say it's huge, massive, and all, I said, "Did you say that illegal mining and all of this?" And I said, "That's a fantastic point. Why are you putting everything into one? I think this itself can become one word." I said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah. Everything is so nice. Whatever you're talking, there are like so much in one this thing." And then he said, "Okay, let me think about it." And then, of course, he would have had his idea. But I got to know that whatever he has in his mind, I know it. I think we generally discuss. It's like on another level.
Wow.
So the KGF, what people are enjoying, this country is celebrating. That is the smallest part in the narration what he gave.
Wow. Wow.
Am I right?
I think so.
Yes.
You know, so when I see, like the way you're speaking now, and when I see the film, there's this synergy that happens between a filmmaker and an actor. And like this movie especially, it kind of takes me back to that angry young man kind of space, you know, and there was I think it was more the writers, you're also the writer of course, but not the filmmaker per se. But there was an extension of the creator into the character. You know, you actually couldn't, almost on some level, you didn't know whose angst is playing out on screen. And I feel that when I see this, I mean, as chilled out and as relaxed, you know, as you are, is there inherently this kind of like a fire that you notice maybe in him, which you're saying you see in his work? When you saw his work, it blew you away. But it reminds me of that time, and it reminds me of those films and the way you've created this character, larger than life, but relatable. You know, that's very important. You can't get so larger than life that the audience has no connection with you. और वो मतलब इतना कुछ कर सकता है इंसान कि मतलब the believable
इंसान ही नहीं है.
हाँ, इंसान ही नहीं है. So all that is retained, you know. So is there an influence of these movies on you, you know, the films of the 70s, primarily the 70s, I would imagine, when we had this first burst of the angry young man and the big action hero?
I think he'll be able to tell that.
I think you answered everything in your question itself.
ज़्यादा बोल गया.
No. So, yeah, the 70s.
Ah.
Basically, one man, Amitabh Bachchan,
Hmm.
he shaped the way I thought about cinema.
Hmm.
The one thing that 70s did and what Sholay did was to tell the Indian audience, the Indian community, that you can make a Hollywood movie in India with Indian emotions. That is something that stuck with me for a very, very long time. I didn't think I was going to make KGF this early in my career, in my second movie. But that is something that always stuck in my head, that you can tell a movie, you can tell a story which is much larger than life. Yet, the one thing that is very similar in all of these movies that Hollywood makes also is the human emotion. The basic human emotion is very, very, very critical for them also. The way they treat their characters. You know that these characters are here, but they're probably in a situation which is far more graver and in a setting which is far more fantastic. So that's something that stuck with me. My influence basically comes from that era,
Wow.
the 70s.
And you?
I've seen a few Hindi cinemas, and of course, like all action hero films, I've watched. But after we came together, and he introduced me to a lot of those 70s ka thing and emotions. He used to always give examples of a particular emotion, what they had captured then. But for me, it's mostly from life. You know, what I would, when we were in a script discussion, I would love to share my experience or my point of view, plus that cinema, this thing, all of that. I think life itself, if you properly tap it, there are so many layers, so many emotions, where I would have gone through so many situations where I want to be a angry, angry young man kind of this thing, or rebel in certain situations. Plus his, I think it will all come together. And he has seen similar kind of struggle in his childhood. That's what I've noticed when we discuss. I think that makes who you are, you know, the situations, what you're put in, and the kind of experience you go through with the people around you, being very sweet when you're good, and then those kind of things, we try to crack those. And yes, but cinema gives us hope. For me, cinema has to give hope. You know, a hero can tackle any kind of situation. With all those things, we tend to believe that yes, we can do, and sometimes belief system is very crucial. If I had not believed that I'll be an actor, I don't think anybody will think on behalf of me. So I have to do that. So that's the way I look at it. But yeah, coming together, his experience and my this thing, we all kind of come to a mid ground, I guess.
Right. So
I want to tell you
Yeah, sure,
one story to tell you just how what consequence the 70s had on me. So I was over here in this same hotel 3 years back, and I was about to check into the hotel, and I saw somebody, and I dropped my bag, and I ran, and I said, I want a picture with you. And everybody around me were wondering who this man was. I took that selfie, and my hands were shivering when I was taking the selfie. That was Ramisipi. That is the only selfie that I've ever taken in my life till date. So that the 70s, you remember that?
Yeah, no.
He
was really excited that day.
He's a massive influence on like all of us. His films that he made. You know, Sholay, what is so interesting, apart from the Gabbar Singh, with the big characters in the main characters, Jai Veeru, Thakur, Basanti, you remember the smallest to smallest character.
Yes.
Like you remember Samba, who says one line.
Yeah.
You know, Kalia, who actually hardly says anything at all. You know, the Ramu Kaka, Ramlal. It's quite amazing how that film has like seeped into the psyche, of people. And again, I'm sorry, I mean, like, I don't mean to get ahead of the release of this film, but I genuinely feel that there is an inherent pop culture aspect in this movie.
True.
You know, that it's inherently there because it's something new that we are seeing. Maybe you can equate it to in the 70s we saw it, but the 70s now is a long time ago.
Correct.
You know, so I feel that there is something new going on in this film, and there is an inherent pop culture. I don't know where it comes from, you know, which I think is very exciting about this movie. So have you, when you write, like, do you ever think of like what the audience is going to think, or are you like, is there a balance between, like, you know, because like I remember speaking to Dad and speaking to Salim Uncle, and it was a very fine balance, like of when to give a punchy dialogue, you know, when to say "Mere paas maa hai," for example, and they knew the effect of that dialogue. They had no effect of the no idea that Gabbar saying "Holi Kab Hai" will become a big dialogue. They were like, that was just one random some line that took on a life of its own. But they were thinking from the audience's point of view when they wrote a punchy line. Then they would break away from, okay, well, let's just be true to. So does that happen to you? Like when you write or when you're performing, are you thinking of that at all? Like what the audience is going to think or what the audience will feel?
You want to say something?
The character itself, we tried, there is no entertainment per se in the movie. You know, the drama is built around this one character, and if he's intense throughout, that doesn't give you the sense of entertainment.
Right.
And that is what we are here basically for.
Yeah.
So the pop culture that you're talking about is probably the quirkiness that the character brings into this, a swagger that he brings into this. And to tell you the truth, I had only the outline for this character. It was his personality, his own personality that he brought into the movie. And he said that, you know, I think we have to try and make it look larger than life, even with that quirkiness. But we have to make it as natural as possible. And all the credit for that swagger is his. You know, he brought that element into the whole mix.
No, I think he loves his heroes, and he, not even for a fraction of a second, he let me go out of character. He has a clear picture. He's giving me credit, but you know, for an actor, if you create such a world and you create such kind of challenges and you etch every character so well and then put you into that situation, and then he starts writing and we discuss. So I kind of feel like, okay, this is the scene. Now as an actor also I have to think, but at the same time I'll be thinking like an audience also. You know, there is a great opportunity for us to have that kind of theater moment.
Yeah.
So I think like that. For me, even when I'm performing as if yahan pe seeti baj rahi hai.
Okay, yeah, sure.
You know, it's like that. I tell them so many times. I tell him saying, okay, now it's like theater mein ye wo. I'm little like that. You know, I'll be in that world. And he also will say, we have one code word. So whenever every shot is finished, he comes and he says, Anna, how my fans would react. So that means take is okay.
Right.
So that's our code word, and it's the world he creates. And I always feel you're only as good as your film, and only as good as your director's vision. I may have the talent to do many things, but if you don't have a director like him, if he doesn't create a world like that, then how can I do? What can I do? I always feel cinema is a director's medium because I come from theater. In theater, I would have rehearsed for 2 months, but once I'm on stage, director will have no control on me.
Correct,
so I'll be acting, I'll be taking the audience. It's like that. But in cinema, director can make me look strong even when I'm weak. Even if I'm not performing, you know, he can capture something and back it up with other reactions, and plus music director can enhance that. So I feel I don't take much credit for my performances because it's not just my performance, it's about every technician's input, plus the way I enjoy, that reflects on screen. So for me, it is like I'm celebrating and they're celebrating me and my performance. And my director made sure that in every moment, you know, they were celebrating my performance or celebrating my presence.
So who came up with the I don't like violence bit?
That
Which
he came up
everybody
with.
seems to have loved and latched
He
onto.
came up with that. He came up with that. He came up with the first half and I came up with the second half.
Now,
Everyone has
He
had
said,
a very,
I
very
need
good
something
reaction
here.
to
I need something here. You know, it has to look like, I should say that, you know, I don't like all these things. And he said, violence. And he was going on and on that morning about that. And then he said, he said, violence, violence, violence. I don't like. I said, how do we
Yeah.
do this? I just said, I just put the second half of it together.
Correct. Yeah, but everyone has absolutely loved that in the trailer.
Yeah.
No, see,
Because it shows that other side, that used to be the cheeky side,
All
the
of-
quirky side.
Yeah,
that kind of comes
most
out
of the
with it.
dialogues that he has mouthed in the movie, I know he doesn't like me saying this, it has come from him. The
no, see,
idea, the
let
expression.
us clear this point here. This has been running around too much. Okay, I as an actor, I always, Prashant doesn't need a dialogue to communicate. In every film, okay, like chapter 1 also, there is that scene which he was talking. Andrew comes, and then Andrew will give him an offer, and that's it. The scene was that, and it communicates.
Yeah.
It communicates the exact point which cinema has to, you have to experience while watching. But then I come from that masses and I tell him, give me some line here. So this is a time where I have to tell something because these guys have, done so much to me, and people will love those things. And he's like, okay, we'll do something. And most of it is on the day of the shoot, we have cracked.
Most of the dialogues in the movie, we write it when he comes after he wears his costume, he comes there, he looks at the setting and he says, I need something over here. And that's actually time well spent there, it doesn't feel like a waste of time because it enhances it. And one thing with him is, if he doesn't feel the scene, I know it that we are not going to keep this in the edit.
Right.
He has to feel it. He has to feel the
I'm a
texture
pathetic
of
actor if I'm not convinced.
that he is. He convinces.
But rightfully so also. No? I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
No, not necessarily.
No,
Sometimes, he comes and he says, this scene,
Just for my sake.
just for me, please do it. I said, yeah, I will. I know this might look silly at this point, but, and then I say, this is a lovely scene. Really? You liked it? Then it will be great. That is the kind of discussion we have.
Right.
No, but it is most of his. Without the dialogues also, that scene is a super hit. But for me, I've grown up watching that theatre moments, no? So I'm like, hey, यहाँ पे एक dialogue और सीटी बजाने का that attitude should be there because he's Rocky.
Yeah.
How can you let they say, okay, go, chalo, it'll become boring, na?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to add that quirk, we discuss, and he gives it, yeah. So it's then he gives too much credit, but that is his thought process also.
But now, after the success of KGF 1, what was for you like the biggest challenge getting into this? Because see, the first one, at least from a Hindi film point of view, I mean, I don't know what the expectation was. People appreciated the trailer. Whoever saw it had great things to say about it. So it adds a certain, I would imagine, a certain pressure of trying to do something more. So what was the most challenging part for you for putting together of Chapter 2?
So there was no chapter 1 and chapter 2 when we started. It was just KGF.
Right.
So we filmed about a month into the filming. I realized that we were going to spend an enormous amount of money for the first half of the movie. And that's when I came to the producer and I came to Yash, and we sat down and I tried to explain to them. It was a shocker to them that that they thought that we were going to split it into two. So when I told them that we should do this, and the discussion that we both had that day was, the best part of the movie is in the second half. How are you going to convince that you make the first half, which is good, but make it into an entire movie?
Right.
So we brainstormed for about a month and a half. We stopped filming.
Right.
And then by the end of that 1.5 months, we came up with a screenplay. We sat down, we went back and forth, and we said, okay, let's take the plunge.
Right. But was it only a budget thing? Also, was it in terms of the storytelling that it would become longer?
No, it was not. It
wasn't like
for me personally. I don't think if I had mentioned it to them about the budget to him or Vijay sir, the producer, I don't think they would have accepted it that way.
Right.
I had to tell them that there is more space to tell the story in two separate installments.
Yeah.
So there was no pressure for us when Chapter 1 was successful. We never felt the pressure even one day that there's so much of expectation and we should do something bigger with this, because it was already a very, very big subject for us.
Right.
So we didn't feel that pressure. And I don't think he feels that pressure even till today, but I feel it. I feel it now that
Yeah, he was telling me you're not going to sleep now for the next 2 weeks.
I won't. Now that I'm done with it, it's done. I've seen it about 400 times in all the languages, and I've lost judgment like most people
Yeah, you
do.
lose objectivity, of course.
Yeah. So I feel that today, have we delivered for that expectation? I know that he doesn't feel that. He's always been very confident, and he's been right most of the time, all the time. So there was no pressure for us. While filming, we actually guarded ourselves. We knew that there was an enormous expectation, but not once did we have this that there is a lot of expectation. We should do a much bigger subject because that subject was bigger.
But the thing is, when you see it, it doesn't look like an easy film to make. It looks like it's really like taken a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of energy out of everyone to make this film. Where you all have shot it, how it's been shot, the scale of it, the action sequences. So, I mean, like, at any point, did you feel like, geez, this is like, it's like a lot, or you were just like carried by the emotion of the story and it was just propelling you forward with the team?
I think we all enjoy that thing. If it is simple, we get bored.
That is true.
Yeah, so if there is complication and if there is too much of drama happening on the day of the shoot, I think that is why we all are here. By the end of the day, all the people who are in this industry, we kind of, I think we like it. We like things being complicated. I always feel cinema is something, you would have done the homework, you would have written the script, you would have, you will have the best of the crew. Producer is ready to give you everything, but still every day it's a challenge. It's almost like nature is against you. Sometimes few actors are not.
I mean, in some sense, it's like going to war, no?
Yeah,
it's
like
one mission every single day.
Every day, and especially with this kind of vision, imagine the kind of amount of responsibility he has. But I think once you enjoy that process, or you get into that zone where you're only looking at what you want, everything else, we don't even think about it. But after maybe finishing the film, when we look at the cinema, then we feel, oh God, that day it was so difficult, and how did we pull it off? That is there, but while shooting, I don't think any of us are thinking like that. I'll be in my own world.
Correct.
He will be, and I think he has got a great quality to keep everybody focused, and he looks like a very silent guy, but he's a violent guy on sets, and in a nice way. So he motivates, and he kind of creates such kind of an atmosphere where everybody's enthusiastic, and they're working for the product.
When you see the captain of the ship working hard, you automatically start working hard.
So that's why directors are very, very important, and I think he, as a director, I work with many people, and I respect everybody. Every director will have his own way, but his way, I really like his approach, because it's fun and it's excitement, but he takes out the best in everybody without even their knowledge, is what I feel.
Right. So I want you to be prepared for one question that keeps coming my way after I made Dawn 1 and Dawn 2. When is Dawn 3? When is Dawn 3? So you'll be prepared, at least from the Hindi film industry. You're going to constantly keep being asked about KGF 3. You spoke about something earlier when we were chatting, when we first started speaking about the emotional aspect of the character and the emotional side of this film. Because there's one thing which is a character with a gun, which can be exciting, but the reason the character picks up a gun is always more exciting for an audience. If you can buy that, then the gun becomes exciting. Otherwise, it's just an action sequence.
Correct, well said.
So for you, like, what is the driving emotional thing in this that people should kind of like look forward to? Like, what are you hoping them, like the first one, there was this, the mother, the promise to the mother. I'm assuming, of course, that will play out further in this, but there seems to be so much more going on, in this movie. So how have you like kind of meant, like, what is the emotional anchor, so to speak, of this character for you in KGF 2?
The way we have left KGF 1, the way we have ended it is, we've spoken about the challenges that Rocky is going to have in 2. So, he's going to deal with those issues. There is the mother issue, which is the most prevalent issue. I cannot take my eyes off that whilst telling the story. That is something that we had decided from the beginning, that the motive for why he is the way he is because of what happened to him when he was a child. So we have a strong like you said, there's a reason for him to hold that gun.
Yeah, because I mean, in one, sorry to interject, because in one, it was very strong. You felt it through the entire film. You know, his reason for being there, his reason for doing everything that he did in that film, there was like a very strong chord, you know, and obviously I'm quite certain that it will be in second as well. But given the scale of this, you know, the balance to kind of maintain that would have been a challenge. I don't think that can be easy because everything gets bigger, and at times in the thing of making scale and making bigger action
Tend to
sequences,
lose the
you can kind of maybe lose out, you know. So I just want to speak to you about the challenge of that in your writing more than anything else.
I think we followed our writing. We haven't done anything different. The scale, the set pieces, you know, the action pieces, everything is part of the story. We didn't design even one of them saying that, you know, here we need a fight. I'm very happy that we did that for this, for chapter 2, that we did not dilute anything from the story.
Right.
That was something that
That's great.
I'm very happy that we got that right.
Yeah.
You know, just to keep the audience whistling for a little longer, we didn't do anything extra with that. And when it comes to the emotional quotient, it's, you know, at some point of time that the mother's, the promise, you know, that he has given, that has to play out. And the way it plays out, I think, is a very, very important segment. I would love to talk to you about this someday after the release, and I would want to be vindicated with what I'm saying today.
I'm sure you will be.
But that is a very, very important aspect. The way that plays out is very, very critical for the movie. And without telling you, without making you feel that, you know, you're watching the same emotion over again, I think we have done our best to try and preserve that whilst giving you something very fresh in that.
No, I'm sure it will. Is there anything else you want to share about Prashanth's working style that people may be unfamiliar with? And do you also think about this? You know, I'll just share something. For me, from all the directors that I've worked with, when I worked with Rakesh Mehra, so whenever we are getting into a scene, any scene, like I'm running a race as Milkha, for example, he will, when he talks to me about what we are going to be doing in the day, he starts telling me about how we've arrived here from about 10 scenes before. You know, so even when I know that I'm running a race, but it suddenly becomes very fresh in my mind as to where the story is, emotionally, what the guy is feeling at this point. Because I mean, that's the activity. You're going to run and you're going to run as fast as you possibly can. Okay. But what you're running for, you know, what you're running away from, whatever those things may be. So is that something that was kind of happening in certain pieces, just keeping your eye on that? Because I feel that in any film is the driving force, the emotion of the story. Is that something that was kind of
see, I never think about how to tell the lines. I always tell this. I just think about why I'm telling this. So because as a director, he would have thought of it so many times, and every scene, every dialogue, he would have put it for a reason, for a cause. As an actor, my job is to understand why I have to say this, instead of thinking how can I say. I can say it in 100 different styles, variety. But when you understand that becomes easier. In my case, I think it's the other way around. I'll be thinking, this scene was like this scene was like that. I think now I've just finished him. I mean, I've done this. And all of that will be running. I think that is when I can act. So I have to know every this thing. And he also sometimes comes and tells me the importance or what he's expecting. That process, I don't think I can explain. When we come together, it just happens naturally. But we know each other so well.
There was no preparation, basically, in the sense that it became so natural to us over the years that I'd go in the morning and he'd be getting ready for the shot, and I'd sit there for 2 minutes and he'll recollect all the scenes by himself. Right. And he'll say, okay, this is what we're doing. I didn't have to tell him anything. Okay, you know, the last scene we did this. Okay. That I think the conversation was very minimal to that point.
And how was it like working with Sanju? What was that like?
It was not something that I expected him to do. It was something that it was my dream to have him in this movie from chapter 1.
Right.
And of course, we were just making a Kannada movie at that point of time when we started off. So it felt difficult to go and approach him.
Right.
When chapter 2 happened, and we went and approached him, and he loved the role. And I have to tell you, the look that he has is completely his. He's the one who came up with all the
really?
references.
Wow.
He's the one who came up with all the ideas for it. Because I told him he has to be mesmerizing. And he said, what is the look that you have in mind? I said, you give me the input, sir, first. Because, he's a legend, basically. So I wanted to start off from his point of view. And he said, okay, why don't we do something like this?
Yeah.
And he was just like a 16-year-old kid.
Right.
He wanted to do everything.
Yeah.
He said, okay, come down, we'll have a photo shoot. And we did all those things, and it started looking beautiful. And I added that tattoo on his,
Right.
with the Sanskrit wordings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was so enthusiastic about that, about his hair and the way he looked. He said, I'm going to shave off my head. It was brilliant, he was the legend that he is. And after he fell ill also,
Yeah.
the first thing that when I called him and I spoke to him, he said, I'm going to be back very shortly. And it was a very emotional time for all of us
of
at
course.
that point of time. And about 8 months later, we said he finally was ready to come and shoot. And he said one thing. He said, don't treat me like a patient when I come to the sets. Just do the same thing that you're doing, that you've done all this time. And that was absolutely emotional
Yeah, that's
for us.
amazing.
And he made sure that we threw the dust in the air, and he fell on the ground, and he
Yeah.
did all those things.
Yeah.
And he had a nurse on the set, and in spite of that, he did all those things.
Wow. The two of you have something in common.
Name Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both have debuted into Hindi films with the name Rocky.
Oh yeah. This is my debut here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
into Hindi films. And
For
even
me,
his
it was
debut.
a different this thing. Not everybody can carry that look,
Oh, yeah, I know.
for sure.
Yeah,
And-
100%.
And then for me, it was more like looking at that man who has done so much in life, seen so much life, the kind of commitment he had, and the way he was getting excited for small shots. He used to go and look at the monitor and say, "Kya lag raha hu main?" and all he used to say. So that is like, wow. To have that kind of enthusiasm after
Yeah.
doing so much and seeing so many this thing, success or everything in
Yeah,
life, that was mesmerizing. And like he said, he was completely committed, and he wanted to. He loved that role, and maybe it looked as if he had missed this kind of cinema, for a very long time, and it looked as if abhi isko marna hai, that kind of time, and even I am in that zone. Yeah, so it was a fantastic experience.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, there's a childlike quality to him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Which he absolutely has. Yeah, which is very kind of contagious when you hang out with him that you want to be. Well, I mean, thanks so much, guys, for
Thank
making the time and having this chat.
Thank you.
And
for,
to all of
hosting
you
us.
watching, 14th of April, the most important day in your lives, please go watch KGF Chapter 2.